let's move on from this discussion and talk about Matthew Centrowitz. He runs the 1500 at this meet. Sorry, the 800 at this meet. And beforehand, Robert and I sort of had a discussion on our subscribers only podcast feed, the Friday 15 last week. We drew 148 as the dividing line as to what we thought would be, a decent performance or not. He was well over that dividing line. He ran 150.97. He finished sixth. He went out in last place. He passed one guy on the last lap. Was never competitive. The win went to Abe Alvarado in 147.29. Centro barely broke 151. Yeah, I come away from this race and I'm still not that worried about him just because, he has sort of a track record of making teams. If you look back to 2012, on that exact date, April 12th, he had underwent knee surgery and ended up getting fourth at the Olympics that year. It's a little bit different now. He's 31. He's not 22, but I still think he's going to make this team until he shows me, right up before the trials that he's still not in great shape.
John, that brings us to the email of the week. It is on Matthew Centrowitz. I will keep this person anonymous. Dear Weejo, I am writing a story about Centro right now for a class. The story is about Centro's underwhelming recent performances and the chances he has at making the Olympic team this year, and how bad it would be if he gets smacked at the trials because of how much smack he's been talking online in his ego. The draft is due Wednesday morning. So, I did an interview for a school paper yesterday, but John's saying he's going to make the team. And essentially, I told this kid I think Centro will make the team, but it's interesting. These young guys are interested in whether Centro's talking too much smack, whether it would be a blow to his ego not to make the team, whether Centro's ego is too big. What do you guys think?
Well, I think Centro has a big ego, but he's the Olympic champion, which entitles you to kind of have a big ego. So he's the first American in 108 years to win the Olympic 1500, which is one of the glory events. You can talk some smack when you do that, and then even if you don't make the team, he's just going to say, all right, well, I have my Olympic gold medal to hang around my neck. Like, he can, I think we said this in 2016, he's set, no matter what he does the rest of his career, the rest of his life, he's always going to be the Olympic 1500 meter champ. So that's a trump card in pretty much any argument. But yeah, it's not going to look great if he's picking fights with some walk-on at Oregon and then doesn't end up making the Olympic team this year. But it wouldn't look great if he didn't make the Olympic team no matter what he did. So, yeah, I don't know.
Yeah, the emailer then made me go into, he's like, why is he going after these people on Instagram? Like, what do you think's up with that? And I'm like, I don't know what motivates him to do that. I had no idea. But a lot of stars and top athletes, they love to sort of make themselves the underdog, stuff for motivation. I don't think any of this stuff hurts Centro. I think a bad performance like this, if anything, inspires him. He's like, holy shit, I'm going to make this team. And as I was telling this kid, there's three things about, what you need to do to make a team. You need to be fit, and then you need to have the nerves on race day, and you need to run tactically smart. And those last two things, no one's better than Matthew Centrowitz. So his fitness is a little bit of a question now, but as you guys pointed out on the subscribers video show on Monday, he has a history of not opening that fast at 800. So, we know his top end fitness is much better than pretty much everyone else in America right now. So he doesn't have to be at his max. And the other two things are heavily in his favor. So I still expect him to make the Olympic team. But if he doesn't, it'll be one of the great stories of the trials.
Yeah, but this still has to be viewed as an F race. But if you don't believe Weejo's word or Jonathan's word or my word, listen to the expert advice of Nick Willis, who tweeted after this race, you can't really read into the 800-meter performances from milers unless it's a declared prioritized race. I only ran 149.5 4 days before running 3:29 in Monaco. So I think he's fine. One thing Jonathan and I were debating was, why was he running this race? We couldn't figure out, does he, and I kind of came to the conclusion, well, he's been working a lot on endurance. I mean, don't forget, people, it was just 4 months ago in December that he beat Cole Hawker, who everyone now is a fanboy of, in a 5,000 meters. So 4 months ago, his fitness was just fine. And John, we're kind of debating on why is he running this race. He must be feeling, I would assume he's not doing it to embarrass himself. I'm assuming he's thinking, I just need a little speed. I want to see where I'm at. So it didn't, I'm sure this was worse than he expected. But one other thing John and I were thinking was, Cole Hawker ran an 800 last week in Oregon. Your move, Centro. Your move. By the way, we're almost sold out of the Your Move shirts. Your last chance. Go to shop.letsrun.com. If you want one, and I'm going to take credit. When Centro makes the team, again, I'm putting these shorts out there to motivate him. I think the track talk, the smack talk is actually good for Centro. He's got an Olympic gold. Obviously, he's going to want to do well at the Olympics again, but this only adds more motivation.
Now, there is another 2016 1500 meter Olympian who competed at this meet, Robbie Andrews, and he was fifth in the 1500. He was closer to the win. The win went to Michael Cerrone quite impressively, actually. It was quite slow because it was windy, and that's one other thing we'll say. Look, 150.9 and the wind isn't, it's still not going to be fast in still conditions, but it was pretty windy at this meet, and that's why some of the times I think were a little slower. RJ Wilson, she only ran 2 flat in her race. So Cerrone wins it in 3:45.84 using a huge lost 100. He came from about 6th to 1st. And then Robbie Andrews, I kind of thought, I'm like, look, the old Robbie Andrews, he would be salivating at this kind of race where everyone's in it with 200 to go. He was still there and he just didn't have that close. And I don't know, are you guys riding off Robbie Andrews because it's been a while since we've seen a big performance from him? He hasn't even made a U.S. final since he won it back in 2017.
Well, he had surgery and Lyme disease. No, I'm not writing him off. That kick? Hell no.
I think I am writing him off. He hasn't made a final since 2017.
Well, he hasn't even run at USA since 2017, has he? I mean,
he ran in 2018 and did not make the final.
And that was the year that he found out he had. Well, by the way, he running really well right before that, John. By the way, he had Lyme disease.
Okay, but you smiling here all smug, like, okay, he had Lyme disease and he's been injured. Yeah, but when was the last time he ran a good race, Robert? I mean, at some point, look, I think if he comes out here and he runs one good race, yeah, I'm right back on the Robbie Andrews train, but he hasn't shown me anything in 3 years. At some point, you kind of got to think this guy might be done.
We've seen it time and time again. To be honest, there's only about 4 or 5. Well, I shouldn't say that, but look, these people that criticize like, oh, this coach isn't any good or whatever, it's because they don't have great A+ talent. There's only a few great A+ talents in this country. Robbie's one of them. So his off day is better than most of these guys' good days. I mean, he's running in this race. So Michael Cerrone is an Olympic hope. He's got Olympic medal potential for certainly at the 800 meters. But, Robbie's, is he doing well? Great? No. Is he running out of time? Yes. But do I think he still potentially can make this team? Yes.
I view him as in a very similar spot to how I viewed Leo Manzano in 2016. And Leo was coming off a World Championship final the previous year, so maybe that's not fair. But Leo has stinkers more frequently than I think other elite 1500 runners. And that year, he was looking very, very bad going into the trials. And then he ran, I think, one race just before the trials, and it kind of showed, oh, okay, he looks like he's back to decent form. And that was enough for me to say, okay, yeah, Leo's a contender to make the team. And he almost made it. And I think if I get that from Robbie, where he's either beating some good guys or he runs something like 3:37 or 3:38, then I'm like, all right, he's definitely a serious contender. But until I see that from him, I don't know. It's hard to take him seriously. He also doesn't have the Olympic standard, which you guys say, oh, you don't need the Olympic standard if you got. Well, does he have any performance? I need to check his list, but I think what kind of world ranking points does he have? You'll get a nice chunk if you finish top 3 at the trials, but he could be in danger from that aspect too.
Wow, I just looked something up. John, forget about an Olympic standard. He doesn't have an Olympic trial standard. I mean, Robbie Andrews isn't going to be at the Olympic trials.
Well, wait, no. Don't they let anyone, if you made the last Olympic team, don't they let you into the trials? I think that's the case, right?
And by the way, USATF officials, if you're listening, it's still going to be embarrassing when you only put 30 people on the start line. You're going to have a round of runners to eliminate like 3 or 4 people. It's embarrassing. You should have 48 people. Let them have that dream on the start line. You go from 48 in the first round to 24 in the second round to 12. Then it means something. It's a little bit exciting, etc. To have 30 people is a disgrace. At a minimum, it should be 36 because people will be scratching down. But it really should be 48. Again.
Okay, just ranting on a podcast isn't going to change things. You've been saying that for a couple years. They're going to have 30. That's what they're doing. They're not going to expand it in the era of COVID. And I guess we'll look into whether Andrews can get in, having qualified for the last team. I thought maybe the champions made it. Who knows? But this performance, actually, he's only second off the win. It's way better than what he's been running recently. He opened the season with a 4:07 1500. That's like not even a good high school time. Then he ran a 223,000. That's okay for him. Then a 151 800 and now 346. So I just wrote him off, but I want to see him make the trials. Then if he makes if he gets in shape to even hit the trial standard, I like his trajectory.
That's what I'm saying. And the Olympic trials, they're way more exciting if Robbie Andrews is in the race for sure. So I hope he can post something, and he's going to be, he'll be a big factor in that race if he, can get into even semi-decent shape.